were lost in Syria, Australia, and at Brown University. My prayers are with the family of these victims, and I stand with so many who hope the light of Hanukkah drives out the horrific hate that we've seen. Now, turning to the topic this week, which is one of the topics, which is healthcare. Let me begin by being very clear and very honest about the state of healthcare today. The Democrats' healthcare program has failed. And I want to remind everybody, what's the name of the healthcare program? Obamacare. This was a Democrat program, and I'm finally excited to see that the Democrats now have got on board with us, that the affordable health care is anything but affordable. So, again, Republicans stand united to fix the problem again. But let's not forget where the root of the problem started. Democrats broke it, we will fix it, and happily to do that. Most Americans can't afford Democrats' insurance plan. The plans are riddled with waste, with fraud, with abuse, and if we're being honest, they only work for one group: big insurance companies. Democrats' health care plan doesn't work. It's never worked. So Republicans are pursuing options that do things a little bit differently. First, we're working to fundamentally lower costs through reforms like cost-sharing reductions. You'll see a common theme: lowering costs versus subsidies. We want to lower premiums for all Americans. Second, we're proposing options that actually expand access to all Americans. When Democrats passed their disastrous health care law in 2010, they promised that if you like your plan, you can keep it. They promised choice. They promised you low costs. Not a single one of those promises were true. Not one. In fact, healthcare premiums have risen over 60% since the implementation of the Affordable Care Act. And I ask you this: profitability from the insurance companies are 600% greater since Obamacare. Has your income increased 600%? Ask yourself that. I know mine hasn't. Here's the difference. Republicans are fighting for a solution. Democrats actually want this issue. They want health care to be an issue. Republicans actually want solutions for Americans to bring down premiums, not subsidies. That's why Democrats are refusing to rally around real reforms. Instead, they're embracing the very broken system of which they created. But this has been true all year. Democrats have pushed political issues while Republicans have actually delivered solutions. No one's talking about the border today, right? Why is that? It's because we fixed it. The border's closed. People are safe, but you don't hear anyone talking about that because Republicans fixed it. Republicans delivered bigger paychecks by eliminating taxes on tips, taxes on overtime, taxes on Social Security. Republicans delivered lower gas prices by cutting regulation and expanding permitting reform. Time and time again, Republicans delivered results for the American people, real results. And we're just getting started. When we return in the new year, we're going to see a continued focus and push for lower costs and bigger paychecks because that's what the American people need from us. That's what they want from us. Now, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Representative Marionette Miller-Meeks, who is a veteran and a doctor who's actually been the leading voice here in the Republican healthcare solution. Marionette?
Well, I thank Chairwoman McClain, but also Speaker Johnson, Leaders Scalise, Whip Emmer. It's an honor to stand with the House Republican leadership to talk about one of the biggest issues facing American families today, and that's the rising cost of health care. As Chairwoman McClain said, I'm an Army veteran. I was both a nurse and a physician, and I'm the only member of Congress to have served as the state director of a public health department. Not only is this issue important to me, I started my journey as a doctor because I was burned at 15 years old. So it was healthcare and the need for healthcare that drove what I do today. and I've spent my career treating patients and fixing broken systems, solving problems, and I can tell you, thanks to the Democrats' failed policy, which they now admit, our healthcare system went from ill to the ICU. For 15 years, the Unaffordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare, has done the opposite of what it promised. President Obama promised to lower premiums by $2,500 and to bend the cost curve down. Has that happened? No. Not in the past 15 years, and it won't happen if we just continue to pass subsidies on to profitable health insurance companies. It doesn't even include out-of-pocket cost. It's not sustainable, and it's not working. Republicans want to lower health care costs for everyone, not just a select few, and not just to continue to subsidize profitable insurance companies. Our plan, the Lower Health Care Premiums for All Americans Act, is the Republican solution to this crisis. It doesn't throw more taxpayer dollars at insurance companies. It puts patients and doctors in the driver's seat. Our bill lowers premiums by 11% by funding cost-sharing reductions the right way, not just through COVID-era bailouts that benefited only big insurers. That's up to $1,871 in savings for families each year and over $36 billion in taxpayer savings. We're delivering real PBM reform to stop middlemen from inflating drug prices. Even in my own state, my PBM transparency bill that passed in 2019 when I was a state senator, one of our counties recorded that they saved $80,000 last year through their transparency alone. We want to give small businesses the ability and the power to negotiate better deals. That alone will save taxpayers $2 billion, but most importantly, save small businesses. We're expanding association health plans by allowing small businesses and self-employed workers to team up to expand choices, which result in premiums going down by as much as 30%, even those small businesses that are in the exchanges. As we're strengthening choice arrangements so more small businesses can afford to offer coverage and more workers can choose a plan that fits their lives and their budgets. This is a plan for working Americans, not for profitable insurance companies. It's about lowering cost, increasing access, and restoring sanity to our healthcare system. Most importantly, it is a plan that lowers healthcare costs for everyone and puts patients and their doctors in the driver's seat. Thank you, and I look forward to getting this bill across the finish line and to the American people.
Like our conference chair, I want to start by offering my condolences to the families of the victims of several tragic events over the weekend. The shooting at Brown University that took the lives of two promising young students. The vicious ISIS attack on our service members in Syria that claimed 3 American lives. And finally, the horrific anti-Semitic terrorist attack in Australia that killed 15 innocent people at a Hanukkah celebration. Our hearts are heavy as we grieve the evil that was put on display this past weekend, and we continue to pray for the full recovery of those injured and for the comfort of the families whose lives are now forever changed. Now, turning our attention to the House Republican agenda. This year, Republicans delivered one of the most consequential pieces of legislation in our lifetime. The Working Families Tax Cut Act, passed by the House Republicans and signed into law by President Trump, achieved historic America First victories, such as no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, tax relief for seniors, an increased child tax credit, and Trump savings accounts for newborn children. 2026 is gearing up to be the year of deeper pocketbooks and lower costs for the American people. Thanks to this landmark legislation, tax refunds could increase by $1,000 per taxpayer next year. That's more money in your pocket for you to invest, save, and grow. Waitresses, law enforcement officers, and parents will have more of their hard-earned dollars to put food on the table and to support their families. Not only did our bill deliver the largest tax cut for middle-class Americans, it also addressed rampant waste, fraud, and abuse in programs like Medicaid and SNAP. As we have all witnessed with the fraud scandals coming out of our state of Minnesota, these programs have long been ripe for fraud. But House Republicans and Donald Trump implemented common sense reforms to strengthen the system to benefit the people who need it the most, not fraudsters who sent millions to terrorists abroad. Which brings me to addressing the failure of my governor, Tim Walz. We anxiously await Tim Walz's response to House Oversight Committee Chairman Jamie Comer regarding what he knew about the $1 billion in fraud. Walz has had 7 years to address and stop the fraud. It wasn't until President Trump made this a national issue that Walz started to pretend that he cares about his constituents' tax dollars supporting a terrorist group in Somalia. Accountability is coming, Governor. Our dishonest, failed governor must and will answer for his complete incompetence. With that, I'll turn it over to our leader, Steve Scalise.
Thank you, Webb. My prayers go out to all those killed in so many different horrible tragedies. I mean, here in America, Brown University, you look at our two Army soldiers that were killed, the anti-Semitic attacks on the other side of the globe. Just remind you, during this Christmas season, this Hanukkah season, it's a special time. It's a time we celebrate, but it's also a time where evil still lurks here and all around the globe. And we just pray for those who have been murdered, harmed, injured. We pray for those who have evil in their hearts, that God can touch them and hopefully remove that evil so that they don't go harm innocent people. This week here in the House, as we finish our work for the year, we're taking up some very important bills. And start with the SPEED Act. We've heard complaints from members all across the country that know that just trying to build things in America, road projects, bridges, pipelines to move energy, anything you're trying to do, more and more laws are getting in the way. NEPA is a heavily abused law that delays a lot of the projects that ought to be built. Bruce Westerman and his committee have done incredible work to bring a bipartisan bill that starts to address the abuses here in NEPA so that we can actually build things in America again. You know, you think about the cost savings that would come if it only takes 2 years instead of 10 years to build a major project. And we all know what's happening all across America, why so many projects are shelved in many cases or take so long to be built because of the abuses of some of these laws, like NEPA, Endangered Species Act, the Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act. All of these laws are being heavily abused. So this is a really important first step, getting the SPEED Act passed to get real, meaningful permitting reform. And then, of course, Dr. Miller Meeks talked about her bill, which is such an important step to lower costs in healthcare for all Americans, 100% of Americans. While Democrats only care about bailing out insurance companies and focusing on less than 10% of Americans that are in the Unaffordable Care Act, we're focused on lowering premiums for all Americans. And that's what you're going to see on the floor this week. You know, you think about association health plans, which have been proven to give people more options to lower costs. The Choice Act, which, while everybody complains, they say, why when I watch TV commercials, I see this gecko lizard and I see the emu and I see all these other animals out there selling health, they're selling car insurance, they're selling homeowners insurance. Why aren't they selling health insurance? Well, that's because the laws at the federal level prohibit the ability for people to have choices to get people trying to offer them lower cost products for health insurance. Imagine if, for example, with Choice Act, where you can run through a health savings account, the ability where if you get your health insurance through your employer, if you're able to go find a better plan, if somebody could compete for your business and offer you a lower deductible plan with lower co-payments for your families, right now you can't go buy that product. Well, we create those options with the bill that we're bringing to the floor tomorrow, the PBM reform that Dr. Miller Meeks talked about, where you can actually have lower prescription drug costs, again, for 100% of Americans. This is something that our three committees of jurisdiction have been working on for a long time. And yet, while Democrats only want to bail out insurance companies while premiums go up, we're focused on having lower premium options, lower cost options for 100% of Americans. So another busy week where we're going to be focusing on helping families that are struggling under the weight of all the damage that President Biden did. President Trump is working to lower costs. President Trump wants to see these bills on his desk. And we're going to work to deliver here in the House. And if I don't see you between now and then, I wish you all a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and Happy Holidays. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson.
I rarely get to raise the podium, but I'm going to take the opportunity this morning. Thank you, ladies. Good morning, everybody. Thank you to Dr. Miller-Meeks for joining us on what is our last leadership press conference of the year. And I just want to say to all of you, press corps, thanks for being here each week and covering all of this. It's been a hugely historic week and year in so many ways, and a hugely consequential Congress, and you've had a lot to cover. So we do, as everybody has said, wish you Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah, and hope you get some well-deserved rest over the short holiday. Since Congress reopened following the end of the Democrat shutdown, the longest in American history, Republicans have passed, since we came back, 41 pieces of legislation, and of course, as you've heard this morning, we're set to pass even more. Chief among them is the Lower Health Care Premiums for All Americans Act. It is aptly and appropriately named because that's exactly what it's going to do, as everybody has explained this morning. If you recall, Democrats shut the government down and kept it closed for 43 days so that Chuck Schumer could get political cover from the grassroots of his party. Remember that he had voted for the same CR just several months earlier in March. When the same vehicle came forward, he suddenly changed his tune, and that is because he caught a lot of political backlash for it. So he decided instead to shut the government down and fight. Well, everybody saw how obvious and how dangerous that gambit was. And so the Democrats tried to spin their selfish political decision to claim the whole thing was always about, quote, fighting for health care affordability. But that claim never made any sense because it ignores the very simple facts of the situation. It is the Democrats' Unaffordable Care Act that broke America's health care system, as has been recounted this morning. And it's the Democrats who have refused every good faith Republican effort to fix it along the way. Now, this is 15 years into this saga that the American people have been drugged through because the Democrats decided 15 years ago to break the system. They insisted when they passed the Unaffordable Care Act that it would reduce premiums, it would provide more choice and higher quality and all of that. And none of that ever happened. In fact, quite the opposite effect is what we have seen. All this was foreseeable, and that's why Republicans didn't support it. Premiums have skyrocketed, the quality of care has plummeted in so many places and in so many cases around the country, and fraud is absolutely rampant in the system, and it is costing everyone dearly. Yes, there is a health care affordability problem in America. It's a very serious problem for almost every family. But it is an indisputable fact that the Democrats caused that problem, and Republicans are the ones having to clean it up. For 15 long years, Americans have now faced skyrocketing premiums, fewer quality choices, inefficient care, and widespread fraud, waste, and abuse. Benchmark premiums on the Obamacare marketplace for every plan, listen to this, they've increased 80% overall since 2014. And they're continuing to rise. The Unaffordable Care Act marketplace has resulted in lower quality plan offerings and less consumer choices to date. Fraud is absolutely rampant. Paragon Health is one of the analyst groups, and they estimate there's over 6.4 million people who are improperly enrolled in the Obamacare exchanges. And a recent GAO study, the Government Accountability Office, found some staggering facts. It proved what we all know intuitively about the fraud that's involved in this program. They found that Obamacare's subsidy system lacks even the most basic guardrails to prevent fraud, waste, and abuse. And I think that study is something that you should all dig into. It should be on the front page of every newspaper because it is shocking and alarming. Over the last 2 years, for example, the investigators at the GAO, Government Accountability Office, they did a little experiment. They in 24 different cases, they applied for Obamacare subsidies. they did it fraudulently by intent. So 24 applications with no Social Security data attached, none of the information that's necessary to actually apply, no citizenship proof attached, and none of the income documents and all the things that they're supposed to be applied and included in an application. Now, guess what? Out of the 24, 23 of them were approved. And they've been paid tens of thousands of dollars, some of them as recently as September of this year, the GAO tracking all of this fraud, wondering, hoping if anybody will ever pay any attention to it and stop it. That's not the only thing they found. The report also found that in 2023, 29,000 Social Security numbers were used by multiple persons. In 2024, 68,000 Social Security numbers used by multiple people to bilk the system, to defraud the system, and to take dollars to themselves. You had, in one case, there was over 120 individuals using the same Social Security number to get these benefits, and it was never stopped. The GAO also found that more than $94 million last year alone was sent to insurers on behalf of people who were already deceased. It's a serious, serious problem in the system. It's why the costs are so high, and this is the system that Democrats in Congress want to extend without any reform. We just can't have that. The Washington Post summarized all this best in one simple sentence. They said, quote, "The real problem is that the Affordable Care Act was never actually affordable." That's the problem. America's healthcare system should be the envy of the world. Instead, it's the most expensive in the world, and the American people are not getting any healthier because of all this madness. A new Gallup poll released yesterday found that 70% of Americans have a negative outlook on our healthcare system for all the obvious reasons. All Americans deserve a healthcare system that puts patients first, one that meets their needs with more access, more choice, and more affordable quality care. And House Republicans have offered legislation to begin fixing what is broken and to restore integrity to our nation's healthcare system. And it's so long overdue. The Lower Healthcare Premiums for All Americans Act, which will be on the floor tomorrow, is the first big step in that regard. As has been noted by Dr. Miller Meeks and the other leaders here, it offers common sense solutions to lower premium cost for everybody, all Americans. It expands access to quality care. It provides every American with more options and flexibility to choose coverage that works for them. And it brings greater transparency to America's healthcare system. And here's how. The bill has 5 key reforms. I'll just reiterate some of this real quickly. It reduces premium cost through cost-sharing reduction payments. It brings pharmacy benefit manager transparency and removes the hidden cost of prescription drugs. It allows small business owners and independent workers to form association health plans. It provides more choice for employees to customize their health care plans, and it protects small businesses from costly regulatory overreach. According to the latest CBO projection, Republicans' cost-sharing reduction payments, just that provision alone, would reduce premiums by at least 11% and will save taxpayers tens of billions of dollars, about $30 billion. Contrast this with the Democrats' proposal. Now, what is their proposal? The Democrats' subsidy proposal would only lower premiums for a small subset of people. Now, think of this. Just 7% of Americans would benefit. When they passed the COVID-era enhanced subsidy, enhanced premium tax credit, okay, it would only affect, and only did affect, 7% of the American people. If it was extended today, if their gambit was done and without any reforms, and they expanded it for 3 years, which is what they tried to do in the Senate, and they failed last week, and what they would try to do in the House, if allowed, that would only reduce, for the 7% of Americans, it would only reduce their cost by 5.7%. Okay, this is not some solution to the problem. It's just adding more money. It's further subsidizing a broken system, and the subsidies go to insurance companies. They're not trying to solve the cost problem. They're trying to hide that, and it's not the way to fix it. It would also, by the way, cost taxpayers, if the subsidy was extended, would cost American taxpayers $350 billion over the next 10 years. Again, the proposal doesn't lower health care costs in any way. It only hides the true cost of the failed law. And I'll remind you, CSR payments are not a new idea. In fact, in 2017, the thing that we're going to put on the floor tomorrow, a big part of that, 196 House Democrats, many of them still in Congress, wrote a letter in support of that very idea. exactly what the Republican bill this week will accomplish. Now, they won't tell you that this week. I'm certain they're all going to vote against it. Why? As was said here many times this morning, they do not want a solution. Democrats do not want a solution. They want an issue in the upcoming election. And they think that the media will go along with this and that people will buy it. That, oh, their heroic effort to extend this COVID-era subsidy that they themselves created and that they themselves put the expiration date on at the end of this year, they're going to try to convince you that that's all health care wrapped into that. Remember, it only affects 7% of Americans, and it would only reduce their cost by less than 6%. Democrats also had a chance to support our provision in the working families tax cut in the big, beautiful bill. But House Democrats voted against it, and the Senate Democrats stripped it out. That cost-sharing reduction reduced everybody's premiums by almost 12%, and the Democrats fought to take it out. This is something that we're going to do this week. The Lower Health Care Premiums for All Americans Act is going to accomplish exactly what the title says. If it becomes law, premiums will decrease, access will increase, and every American will have more options and flexibility to choose the coverage that works best for them. It's called the free market, and we're the ones that advance those ideas. More options and lower costs. That's what the American people demand and deserve, and it is only the Republican Party that is presenting any ideas to do that. The Democrats want to keep subsidizing a broken system. We're fighting for that, and we will. I'll just close with this. In 2025, as I said, was a marquee year, a landmark year. I want to remind you all there's something noticeably absent from our end-of-year duties here. Normally, or at least in the past before I became Speaker, we would all be here with so much angst and drama and everything about the dreaded end-of-year Christmas omnibus spending package. You have not been able to write about that for now the third year because we broke the fever. We both broke the Christmas omnibus fever, and we're getting back to stewardship and regular order, and we're very proud of that. The third consecutive year, we've avoided that terrible congressional Christmas tradition, and we're getting everything working here again. Fixing the appropriations process has been a goal for me and this leadership team. It's been a goal for Chairman Cole at Appropriations and his leadership team, and we're well on the way to rebuilding that muscle memory. House Republicans have shown up every day and delivered real results for the American people, and we're going to continue to do so. We are excited about the years ahead. We look back now on what we've done all this year. We obviously passed the Working Families Tax Cut, the big, beautiful bill, the most significant piece of legislation that Congress has considered in my lifetime. Stephen Miller's had a quote that summarized it pretty well. He said, quote, "Each and every one of the individual titles in that bill will be considered one of the greatest achievements in the history of the conservative movement." They are conservative policies, but they benefit every American, and everyone will be seeing and feeling the effects of that in the first and second quarter of next year when all that becomes implemented. Here's, by way of reminder, real quick, legislation included the largest tax cut in American history, permanent extension of the reduced estate tax, Medicaid program reforms, expansion of SNAP work requirements, increased border enforcement and funding, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, increased standard deduction for seniors, tax-free savings accounts for every child born in America, business tax provisions to incentivize investment and innovation and broaden the pathway out of poverty for more people. Wages will be increasing and costs will be going down. Many of these landmark provisions are set for implementation in the first, second quarter, as I said, and all boats will begin to rise. Just last week, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent predicted $100 to $150 billion in new tax refunds, between $1,000 and $2,000 per household. And most of the estimates say that the average American household will have their take-home pay increase by at least $10,000. These are real, tangible benefits that this bill is going to offer to tens of millions of American families, and we're excited about what's ahead. It's just one more example of the many positive and transformational outcomes that we're going to see going into the next year. So far, House Republicans have passed 413 bills this year. We've codified 68 of President Trump's America First executive orders. We've repealed 23 Biden-era maddening regulations under the Congressional Review Act resolutions. We clawed back billions in wasteful spending through rescissions and opened numerous investigations into President Biden's failed administration. And we look forward to continuing all of that work when we return in 2026 and we go into an epic midterm election cycle. With that, I'll take a few questions. I'm going to go to Bill Malugin. What you doing on the front row, man? Glad to see you.
Ahead of Jack Smith's deposition tomorrow, there's a new report out this morning that DOJ is getting ready to hand over Congress a batch of emails, specifically to the House Judiciary Committee. And in those emails, they allege, it says that the FBI warned the Biden DOJ that there wasn't probable cause to raid Mar-a-Lago. Are you aware of this? Are you expecting to get these emails later today? What's your response?
I've heard as much as you just reported there, and I have not had an opportunity to review any of that yet. But it would verify and I think affirm much of what we understood from the very beginning. As y'all know, I used to serve on the House Judiciary Committee before I was made Speaker in October of '23, and we spent a lot of time uncovering just the complete and total weaponization of the Department of Justice under the Biden administration. They used it to go after political enemies, and chief among them was, of course, Donald J. Trump. And they abused the system, and to me, the great harm of it all was that they really eroded the people's faith in our system of justice itself. I mean, that's the most dangerous thing. If people don't believe that our justice system is actually equal justice under the law, that Lady Justice is actually still wearing the blindfold, that everybody gets the same treatment under the law, it's a really serious challenge for a constitutional republic. And so this is some shocking revelations to a lot of people. It's not to us. We understood that this was happening the whole time. The evidence, I think, and I expect will verify all of that. And there's going to have to be appropriate accountability. I mean, accountability is key here. It's important because if you're going to restore the people's faith in the justice system, you have to show them that there are serious consequences for people like Jack Smith who abuses that system. We have to ensure it doesn't happen again, and we'll see how all that unfolds, but it's going to be a very, very interesting, important development. Yes, ma'am, second row. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Leader. This morning, Congressman Mike Lawler said that it was political malpractice to not allow a vote on the ACA subsidy extension this week. What's your reaction to that, and will Republicans suffer any political blowback for not allowing something like that to come to your moderates?
Well, Mike Lawler is a very dear friend and close colleague of mine. And ironically, weekend before last, I was in New York in his district on Long Island, and we were campaigning together, ensuring that he gets reelected. Mike Lawler fights hard for New York, as every Republican in this conference does for their districts. The districts are different. They have different priorities and ideas, but we do have, there's about a dozen members in the conference that are in these swing districts who are fighting hard to make sure that they reduce costs for all of their constituents. And many of them did want to vote on this Obamacare, COVID-era subsidy the Democrats created. We looked for a way to try to allow for that pressure release valve, and it just was not to be. We worked on it all the way through the weekend, in fact, and in the end, there was not an agreement wasn't made. Now, everybody was at the table in good faith, and I certainly appreciate the views and the opinions of every member of this conference. But I will tell you one thing they will all join in unity on is voting for this bill that we've been discussing this morning, because, again, instead of just trying to assist 7% of Americans, this is for 100% of Americans, and we can handle that and do that together. I hope that Democrats will come along with us. If they're serious about solving the problem and bringing down cost of health care, they'll all fully support it as well. But I think you're going to see they're playing politics with this. Back row, yes, ma'am.
Last week, President Trump said that his legislative agenda is essentially done. So why should voters vote for Republicans in the midterms if there's nothing left to do legislatively?
Well, I don't know which comment you're referring to and in what context, but I'll tell you, I talk to the president sometimes multiple times each day. He and I and his team and our teams work around the clock. Literally, the president and I will talk sometimes at midnight and then again at 6 a.m. I mean, this president doesn't sleep. He's working all the time. The agenda is aggressive. There is much more to do. I think what he's sometimes when he's taken out of context on comments like that, he's referring to what we accomplished with the Working Families Tax Cut, the big beautiful bill, because there's so much in that a lot of people said, wow, you guys checked all the boxes. Well, we did to a certain extent, but there is so much more to do. And we're going to have a very aggressive legislative agenda coming right out of the gates in January. We're going to continue to work, for example, on health care, to continue to bring costs down for the American people, to bring down the cost of living overall. You're going to see an aggressive affordability agenda, and we're going to see continued codification of the president's executive orders. He's up to about 200 of those. Probably about 150 of them are codifiable by Congress, and we're working steadily through that list. You're going to see us delivering for the American people while the effects of that giant piece of legislation that we did on July 4th, got signed on July 4th, comes into implementation. So much more yet to do. And the president and I talk about that almost every day, and he's excited about it, and I am. Yes, sir. Front row. Right.
So
Yes.
there's a lot of Republicans who would still like to see health savings accounts set up as an alternative to the premium tax credit.
Mhm.
I'm curious, why is that not in this bill? Is that something that's still on the table?
Very much on the table. The president likes the policy as well. I see my doctor colleagues here. Yeah, Dr. Miller Meeks is nodding in agreement. The Docs Caucus the Doctors Caucus in the Republican conference works on these things, and I think we could get broad consensus on that. What we anticipate going into the first quarter next year is possibly in a reconciliation package or in regular order as standalone. Ideas just like this. We have a long list of things that we know will reduce premiums, increase access and quality of care. And again, we're the only party that's going to be bringing that forward. The Democrats have zero ideas, zero concepts, and zero legislative plans on anything they'll propose other than just subsidizing the broken system. So there's going to be a stark contrast between the two parties. That'll be a big part of it, and I think you'll see a lot of that discussion going forward. Yes, ma'am. Last one here.
To follow up on that, here at the end of the year, people have already enrolled in their health care plans. You guys were out for 2 months during the shutdown. Why has it taken until the end of the year to start addressing, putting to the floor these health care bills? And what is your message to those who are going to see their premiums rise next year anyway? Because it seems unlikely that Congress is going to be able to get something together by then.
The health care bill on the floor tomorrow is right on time. There's always a good time to reduce premiums for health care. And remember, the Republican Party, since the Unaffordable Care Act became law 15 years ago, we have been working steadily, producing ideas, trying to address this. We tried to repeal and replace it, as you all know, in our ultimately failed attempt back in the first Trump administration at the end of 2017. The famous John McCain thumbs down tanked the effort. And since then, the roots of Obamacare, the Unaffordable Care Act, have gotten so deep in the system that it's no longer possible to just pull it out at the root and chop it off and start over. It's too deeply ingrained, and so now we have to take it step by step to reduce cost and repair the system, and that's the ideas that we have. You're talking about the longest shutdown in U.S. history. The Democrats did that. Remember, when we reopened the government, we ended in the exact same place that we began. They didn't get a darn thing out of it, and we knew that they wouldn't, and that's how it'd come out, and they did it for political purposes. When they took us off the field effectively for 43 days, as soon as we got back, let's remember, because history's being revised here every day, we got right back to the appropriations process, remember, which was so critically important, and all the other measures that we were pushing through. We got done on that steadily through the year, and then we turned the attention to healthcare, knowing it was coming at the end of the year on the subsidy and that the new ideas would be presented. We didn't start this in October, November, or December. This is something the Republican Party has been working on for years. I've mentioned in here before, when I was chair of the Republican Study Committee, the largest caucus of Republicans in Congress, we had 158 members back in 2019, and we produced a 2-volume set on conservative common sense solutions to fix health care. We've never been able to get the votes to fix it because the Democrats have been unwilling to go along, and you can go back and look at the record and show over and over all they want to do is continue to throw taxpayer dollars and subsidize the broken system. The reason the premiums are up 80% since the bill was passed by the Democrats in 15 years ago is because they're further ingraining a broken system. So it's up to us to fix it. This is one piece, one part of that. And in the first quarter, January, February next year, you're going to see much more activity of this. The American people's attention is on health care for the obvious reason. It is a very serious problem. But remember this, the Democrats broke it, Republicans are going to fix it. I wish you all a blessed holiday. Thanks so much.